welcome to yet another episode of Monday with Tsene. Today I'll be talking about assertiveness, particularly the role of assertiveness on one's mental health in different relationships, whether it's a relationship with your friend, relationship with your colleague, relationship with your boss. We'll be unpacking those various relationships. Before we get into that, obviously one has to define what assertiveness is. Well, assertiveness is basically understanding one's needs, one's beliefs, one's values in terms of communicating with other people and taking those beliefs and values into consideration for yourself, and particularly being respectful towards how you express them towards other people. And if one does not, is not assertive, then there's other form of communication one can express, which is passive communication, aggressive communication. When you talk about passive communication, is when you don't take your own beliefs and needs into consideration. You just allow other people to, basically walk over you in terms of, for example, if your colleague wants you to do a certain task and you don't want to do it, but you're unable to express that, then you will obviously then allow them to give you that task, even though you don't want to do that task, for example. Right? Another example when it comes to a communication style is aggressive communication. Aggressive communication is when you just entirely put your own needs into consideration without other people's needs taken into consideration. For example, you are in a way viewed as a bully, so you don't allow other people to express their opinions, you don't allow other people to express their needs. So in a workplace, for example, if you're an aggressive communicator, you would express yourself in a way that is deemed as inappropriate towards others. So for example, if you are a boss of a company and you communicate in a way that is aggressive, for example, if you want your employees to do a certain task, you would, for example, give them a task maybe end of the week, say it's due on Monday, without taking into consideration their own needs, for example, in terms of their plans that they might have for the weekend. Right? So in terms of when it comes to communicating, one needs to find a balance in understanding how to communicate. That is when assertive communication comes into play, whereby you are confident in the way you communicate your needs, you communicate your values, communicate your beliefs, in obviously a respectful manner, right? So some of the various tips that one can take into consideration. The first one is basically to assess your style of communication. Obviously, we all communicate on a regular basis, so one needs to, be aware of the way you communicate. For example, if you communicate towards your partner in an aggressive way, try to observe how you communicate with them. If you communicate towards your colleagues in a passive way, try to observe how you communicate with them. So understanding, do you allow people just to take advantage of you? Do you, get easily frustrated when you listen to other people's opinions? So get an understanding of the way you communicate with people. That's obviously the first thing you need to take into consideration when it comes to understanding, assertive communication. And also the second one will also be then practicing when to say no in a respectful manner. One needs to obviously say no within, your limited capacity of doing things. For example, if a friend requires you to do something that obviously is not within your capacity to do it, express yourself in a manner that, hey friend, I'm unable to do this because I have A, B, and C to do on the weekend. So in order for you to practice saying no, you can do this with someone that you feel comfortable to do it with. For example, if it's your partner, you can express to your partner that, hey partner, I tend to struggle in terms of communicating, saying no to people. Is it possible for me to practice this with you? And if they say yes, then obviously then you can go ahead and getting feedback from them. But also, if perhaps you need professional help to get assistance in terms of assertive communication, you can do that with your psychologist. Another thing that you can do in terms of being assertive is just using your body language. Body language is important in terms of showing that you are confident in what you're talking about, showing that you are assertive in saying, for example, you don't want to do something. So be aware of the body language. Practice how to look someone in the eye when you're speaking to them, so that a person can know that what you're saying is very important to you. So that's quite important in terms of the body language. And also another important tip is just keeping your emotions in check. So think of situations whereby you needed to communicate something to people, or you were asked to do something. In those situations, how did you respond? Were you frustrated by the task that was required from you? Were you listening to the individual? Were you able to express yourself in a manner that's appropriate towards them? So just being aware of your emotions is something that's quite important and links back to assessing your style of communicating. Another thing that's quite important is obviously starting off small. Start off with small things. For example, as I made, practicing with your partner. Practice with your partner the small things. Even if it's, for example, you tend to struggle if you're communicating in a market or at the shop or at the restaurant when, for example, you ordered something and what you got was not what you ordered. So you can practice with your partner. Say, hey partner, I tend to struggle to express that and I end up eating what was not ordered by me. So you can start off small, practicing with your partner, and then lead on to you feeling comfortable and trying to attempt that when you are in those situations. But it obviously depends situation to situation in terms of expressing your assertiveness in those small situations that you encounter. So in terms of the benefits one can experience from being assertive in their communication, one of them is you're able to set your own boundaries. Boundaries are quite important for people in different contexts. Obviously, depending on how you communicate with people in different relationships, boundaries are important and boundaries need to be set. So if you're assertive, you're able to set those boundaries, and people will be respectful towards those boundaries that you set for yourself. And another benefit, you tend to earn respect, because if you're able to express yourself about things that you're uncomfortable with, things that you tend to struggle with, or things that you perhaps don't agree upon, and you're able to express that, people will be respectful towards your opinion and will know how to communicate with you in a respectful manner. Right. Another benefit is you're able to control your emotions. Emotions are quite important in different relationships in terms of how you express yourself. You don't want to come across as being too aggressive in your communication. You want to come across as being too laid back in terms of your communication. So you're able to have an understanding of your emotions, able to control your emotions. So in the future, you know how to express yourself when perhaps you're given a task by someone, to be able to understand your emotions in that situation. Another example of a benefit will be it builds your judgment on certain situations. So you have a clear understanding of how people communicate, since you have an understanding of your own communication style, which would then be assertive. So in terms of the judgment, if you're in a different environment, for example, in a work environment, and your boss expresses something, you're able to have an understanding of where they're coming from. So you reserve your judgment and you express your concerns to them in a manner that is appropriate. So you have an understanding of that context within that work environment. So another benefit is that it improves your body language, particularly if now you're assertive. You have an understanding of how to communicate in a manner that someone would reciprocate as being confident in terms of expressing your desires, your needs, your values. Able to have eye contact, good eye contact. You're able to express yourself in a confident way, and also you're able to build in terms of saying no to situations that you're unable to put your effort, or you're unable to do certain things. So it builds onto that in terms of obviously starting off small, as I said earlier on, practicing with your partner, towards practicing in situations where a lot is required from you and you're unable to say no. So for example, if now you are assertive, you'll be in a stage where you're able to express yourself in a way that the person can understand that this person is saying no to the situations because they're unable to do it. So another benefit that one might encounter is, it builds on towards your confidence. If one is assertive, that does build onto your self-esteem, because you're able to express your thoughts, you're able to express your beliefs in a way that you don't feel as though you're unable to, and you're able to express that in a respectful manner towards others. And obviously that builds your confidence in terms of different situations. So you can start off small in situations whereby you're expressing your needs towards your partner, and then towards perhaps your boss. So that does build your confidence in various situations. And then in summary, in terms of ending it off, I think what's something that's quite important is just understanding your way of communicating towards others, right? Whether it's with your partner, whether it's with your family, whether it's with your colleagues, whether it's your boss, whether you find yourself in a restaurant. So, think of situations whereby you have to communicate your needs, or your values, or perhaps your thoughts, and understand how were you able to express yourself in those situations. Was your way of expressing yourself reciprocated in a manner that is respectful? Were you expressing yourself in an aggressive way? Were you expressing yourself in a way that is quite passive? And that is where we end off today's topic on assertive communication. Thank you for tuning in, and see you in another episode.